Hello everyone and welcome to the New York Empoleon Week 6, that's 6 battle of the APA Evolution League. We are here with Jacob, as always, coach of the Green Bay Pikachus. If he is uploading, and I'm not sure he is, I will have his link in the description below. Either way, I will have his link there. I know it because I have battled him before. He's a great dude and a great battler. Very, very helpful and wonderful guy. So, what do we see right off the bat? If you want to know anything about my kind of baddie sets, I encourage you guys to go check out the team builder. There's some zaniness coming. He doesn't bring the Shadow Tag Gothitelle, which does mean that some of my sets may or may not be as useful as they otherwise were going to be, but that's okay. I'm expecting that to be a unburdened Drifblim to try to outpace most of my team outside of an unburdened Hawlucha, which we may have terrain wars trying to fight who's going to be able to get that off. Obviously, Hawlucha does have a higher base speed, but Drifblim does have the ability to also run a very effective acrobatic set. Raikou is scary. I have to figure out that Specs Shadow Ball literally just runs through my team, so I definitely have to check out for that. And then Garchomp is a pretty big threat if he is Choice Scarfed. Other than that, the Steelix I expect it to come because it stops a couple of my mons from doing literally anything, including the Koko and the Gardevoir, so definitely want to make sure that I handle that as early as possible, and that is probably also his hazard setter, so I do want to check for that. Now we are going to get this battle started, and I hope you guys do enjoy. So right off the bat, I just clicked play on my XSplit. That's not going to work. We're going to click play on the actual thing. So right off the bat, we are off to a great start. He is going to lead with his Kangaskhan, as I am going to lead with Koko. Now I sort of expected him to lead with the Steelix, and if he doesn't lead with Steelix, then I was going to expect him to go into Steelix right off the bat. He might fake out here, but I'm not too concerned about that kind of damage. But either way, I'm expecting Steelix to come in right here. And Rotom is a safe switch on the fake out. Rotom is a safe switch on the Steelix. So I might as well just go into it and not have to deal with any of the damage as opposed to clicking U-turn and taking some. So I just go straight into my Rotom at this point, as he is going to then Mega Evolve and go for the fake out. The return. But I am also immune to that, so it doesn't really matter. And I... right off the bat here, I'm like already just kind of spooked. I'm just like expecting him to know all of my sets for some reason. So I'm like, if I make this play, it's the wrong play if he does that. And if he knows this is my set and I can't touch this mon, then... And I talk to myself like that the whole time. And I just needed to chill and just make the plays I needed to make. So Rotom right now, it's a free Will-O-Wisp. If he goes Finny, I have a pretty free ability to then just click Volt Switch, because then if he does go Garchomp, then wow, he's making a lot of switches, and I just get to know what his ideal situation that he wants to find himself in is going to be. So at this point, it's a very free Will-O-Wisp, and we do see him go into the Steelix. Now, Rotom is physically defensive, and the Steelix is going to be burned, so it is going to do no damage to me, which means Hex is completely free, and I'm going to do a solid 43% while he's going to set up Stealth Rock, and the burn is going to chip him down below 50%. And I have another completely free Hex at this point, but I decide I want to defog, thinking he'll probably switch out, but he actually just decides to roar me into what ends up being my Ditto. Now, Ditto discovers his set here, which is Stealth Rock, Roar, Heavy Slam, and Earthquake, which means that he actually has literally no way to touch my Rotom at all, and he does have a way to touch my Ditto. I know that he's Burn and I'm not, but I don't really feel a need to take damage. He's probably just going to set up Stealth Rock again. I can't really touch him anyway with his own Earthquake. I assume he's defensive, so I am just going to switch back into my Rotom while I expect him to set up the Stealth Rock. Now, the next 5 or 6 turns are me being really dumb, thinking that, oh, I will let the Burn take him out, and I will just go for Defog. And so I'm just going to click Defog. He's going to be smart and just click Rocks over and over until he dies. And realizing at some point, which you'll see in a minute, that he is slower, allows him to always set up his Stealth Rock after I Defog, even before he dies. And I do realize that after like way too long, guys. So just watch this for a little bit as we discover that Robert Goldo, a dragon, my first name's Robert if you didn't know, is kind of an idiot. And so we just kind of let this happen, and eventually I'm like, oh wait, he is going to have his Stealth Rocks up. So let me just go ahead and finish him off with the Hex instead of letting the burn take him out, which ends up being like the same turn. I wasn't sure if burn would take him out this turn or if it would be one more, so I just hexed when I realized that he was going to have his Stealth Rock up, and he is going to have a pretty free switch now into whatever he wants, which is going to be the Finny, which can't Oko me unless he's Choice Specs and Modest and Max Special Attack. So I decided to just click Defog and be safe about it, as he is going to set up his terrain and I get my Defog off, and the rocks are gone anyway, so that whole thing was sort of moot regardless, and I could have made it a lot faster. But instead we just go into my Ditto here to discover his Raikou set, and I've got something to talk about. That crunch was very unexpected, I will tell you right now. This is a physically defensive Rotom, so the crunch actually did less than Shadow Ball. I was so scared of Choice Spec Shadow Ball. Look at my team. What on my team takes Choice Spec Shadow Ball? The answer, my friends, is Sawsbuck, which I didn't bring, as the only Mon that is like a decently safe switch into a Choice Spec Shadow Ball, or Thunderbolt. And I didn't bring it. It had its time in the sun. I expect to bring more Sawsbuck, but right now it didn't really match up well against his team. So if he had just brought Specs Shadow Ball and clicked it right there, that's going to do 80% to Ditto minimally, and so we are going to be in a bad place. But he actually goes for the Crunch. I look at his moveset and it is Wild Charge, Volt Switch, Crunch, and Bulldoze. This is a physical Raikou, and I was like, okay, what? Hold on. It's physical Raikou that doesn't have E-Speed on it, first off. Excuse me, what is this set? No idea if he's Scarfed, no idea. So I figure, let me just see if he clicks Crunch again. It doesn't kill anyway. This is not at all the situation I was expecting to be in. I really got thrown off by that. And I'm just going to go for a Bulldoze, because if he does decide to go into the Drifblim, then that's fine. We can just switch out. If he goes out into anything else, I just get the speed drop, and then I can switch my Ditto out, kind of scouting out what he wants to do, which is exactly what I decide I want to do. He's going to go for the Dragon Claw, which we see doesn't quite do 50%. Misty Terrain is up for one turn too long here. It will go down to one turn. I was really hoping it had gone down to 0, because that would have been a free Will-O-Wisp. If he goes into Finny, I just click Volt Switch at that point. But instead, my Rotom does take 40% completely unnecessarily, and I do now have an expectation that maybe he's Scarfed into Dragon Claw, and I'm going to go into Gardevoir, trace the Rough Skin. He's going to go for another Dragon Claw. Doesn't try to read an Earthquake or anything like that. So that is a pretty safe switch, and Gardevoir is now in for free. If he's Scarfed, which I'm sort of thinking he is, which I have no way of knowing for sure, but I think he's Scarfed, then I am just going to be perfectly safe right here. And if he isn't Scarfed and goes for an EQ, well then I know he's not Scarfed, and that's really good information, or a Poison Jab. But either way, I do outspeed him because he's at -1 if he's not Scarfed, and if he is Scarfed, then he's locked in Dragon Claw. So I can just very safely go for a substitute here, as he is going to switch into the Kangaskhan, and I am just going to get that sub off. And at this point, the Kangaskhan's here, and it's really annoying because it gets 2 hits of everything, and if it breaks the sub on the first one, then I do take damage on the second one. So I'm not going to be able to set up Calm Minds on the Kangaskhan, so I decide I'm just going to go for a Moonblast at this point. As he goes for the return, hits me once, breaks my sub, hits me twice, Rough Skin, which I forgot about, completely forgot about during the battle. And I do about 35% with the Moonblast, which, you know, that's not terrible damage. We take that. And so we do manage to bring his Kangaskhan down to about 50%. He could go for another return, take 2 more sets of Rough Skin, or I can go into the Rotom here, which is exactly what I figure I should do. Try to see what he has coverage for the Rotom. Maybe he has Crunch, maybe he has Sucker Punch, but he actually shows me Wish, and so he showed me Return and Wish, which is something that seems to be a Jacob special, is that he likes to run Wish Kanga. But Rotom now, just like, there's the Protect. I'm like, okay, I've clicked the Volt Switch to try to hit the Finny, as I'm expecting him to bring that in, but he's going to go back to full HP, and I'm seeing, okay, Return, Wish, Protect. What, do you have Crunch? Like, if you have Crunch, then you don't have Earthquake. So I don't know what his last move is. But Volt Switch is totally free. He never goes into Garchomp here, because if he does, then I just get a safe Will-O-Wisp at that point, and otherwise it's fine. So I go back into my Ditto at this point on the Volt Switch, and I'm able to click Bulldoze safely, and we do see a critical hit Bulldoze there, which is great. We also see that we outspeed. We might have been a speed tie, but we at least get it first, and then he does not quite take me out with the Bulldoze. So it's a safe second Bulldoze at this point. We've outsped twice, so I'm expecting that he's going to switch out, and it's another critical hit Bulldoze. So Ditto really putting in the finest of work and on the finest of pressure right there. But we are going to switch it out, put up my own terrain in case he decides to go Drifblim right here. But he does just go for a Surf, showing me that he is not Specs, he is Leftovers, and he is actually not that offensively invested, which is amazing. And so I outspeed a non-Scarfed Raikou. So I'm just going to go for the Calm Mind here. It is now a safe Thunderbolt to take out the Raikou, +1 Dazzling Gleam will take out a non-Scarf Chomp, and if he goes into Chomp here, I know he's going to be Choice Scarfed, and I have no reason to just sack off my Koko right now, since I do have the Electric Terrain and the Hawlucha here. And he actually makes a pretty good play, a middle ground play, and goes for the Poison Jab, hits the Poison, and so we do have a wearing down Hawlucha at this point, but it's a totally safe Swords Dance since I'm still expecting him to be Scarfed, and so I just get up to +1 defense, +2 attack, and his Spinny comes in, and this is where I decide it's time to Baton Pass out into Scizor, thinking he's going to probably Moonblast, and that's exactly what he does. It does nothing to Scizor, and Scizor now is at +2 attack and is Choice Banded. Now, I talk about this in my team builder a little bit. I have officially done the calcs, and it is true. Choice Banded +2 is actually equal to +4, not +3. The reason being, Choice Band multiplies your attack by 1.5 times. It does not raise your attack by 1 stage. That's more important and significant because there is a decreasing return on the amount that you get per attack. So I increase my attack by 1.5 times. That's +1. That is what +1 is. +2 is increasing from 1.5 to 2 times. So that actually is an increase of 0.75 times. And, it's less than that. It's from 1.5 to 2 is an increase of, I don't know. But I did the math here, and this is where it's important because 2 to +3 is from 2 times attack to 2.5 times attack. And that is an increase of 0.25. So that I know. I don't remember. I think it's 0.33 times. It's 1/3 for increasing from 1.5 to 2, and then 1/4 from 2 to 2.5. But I'm still increasing that by 1.5 times for the Choice Band. So that actually puts me at 2. Like if you multiply it, it's 2 times 1.5 is actually 3, right? Which is +4. +4 is 3 times normal your attack. So this is actually a +4 Bullet Punch coming off of a Technician Scizor, and we are going to watch this thing. And actually, he goes in the Drift Limit, it's not unburdened, so I was like, oh, okay. It's Aftermath Rocky Helmet, and I was like, oh, okay. That's a lot of damage on Scizor. But he's going to go out into the Garchomp at this point. Bullet Punch as is just an absolute nuke. I take more Rough Skin damage, and then he's going to go out into his Kanga, which did at least get the Wish off, so he's back at full HP. I needed some chip on this thing for Scizor to kill it. We usually does 85%, and then he's going to go for the Earthquake, which does take me out on the second hit. I was so close to surviving that. I was so upset Scizor had a 4-0 right there. That was just stolen away from it. Since the 20% and the 6% was actually a high roll on the baby, which is crazy that Scizor could have potentially survived that. That would have been out of this world, and Scizor would have swept right there. But instead, we do see the Earthquake. We've seen his full moveset, and we know Rotom cannot be touched by the Kanga, so it is a 100% free Volt Switch at this point. There is no reason to click anything else, as he does go for the Wish. That is going to heal up his Finny, but I can go out into my Gardevoir so that I can eventually get my Koko's Terrain to be the one that stays instead of the Finny's Terrain, so I can get some burns or something on this. And one thing we're going to notice, you may have seen it very, very quickly, Gardevoir traced and activated Misty Terrain, so in my head, I thought I outsped. Apparently, Trace just activates first, and the secondary effective Trace activates first, so Gardevoir does not outspeed, but I thought I did, and that ended up being a huge misplay. This game is not over, because he shows Calm Mind, as my Gardevoir is going to go for a Moonblast, which I just kind of... If I'd known that I didn't outspeed him, I would have Calm Minded right there, because there was no reason not to Calm Mind right there. Because if he did Calm Mind, then I was going to be potentially in trouble. So I clicked Moonblast. That was the wrong play, and because he has the Wish as well, and so... He goes for a second Calm Mind. I'm going to show him Calm Mind of my own at this point, and we are just going to get into a little bit of a Calm Mind war. He's going to start attacking at this point because I do have the Ditto that can always come in on the Calm Mind. He goes for Moonblast, doesn't get the Spadef or the special attack drop, which is great, as I go for another Calm Mind. That will give me a chance to get off one big Moonblast before I die. There's no reason to click it again. It's back to neutral, so we're doing about and we are going to see that he's got the leftovers. I've got the leftovers, but he's going to take me out at this point. and that's going to be annoying, but I do have the Tapu Koko still in the back, which can still handle the Hawlucha. Most likely, I'm hoping that the Thunderbolt will go through. I don't have the Electric MZ. I kind of wish I did at this point, and I'm not at full health. If I had Calm Minded right there on that Protect, that would have been huge, but that Protect actually is super frustrating because that is something that he's going to be able to get Leftovers Recovery back with, and my Koko is going to slam him with a Thunderbolt and actually hit the Paralysis, which is a big deal, as this Finny is just so annoying for me to break. Since most of my attackers remaining are special attackers. I am finally going to go into Ditto and scout out what his full set is, and we do see that it's Moonblast, Surf, Protect, and Calm Mind, as we've seen all of already anyway, but my Ditto now can just click Moonblast. It is Choice Scarf, do will outspeed because he's paralyzed anyway, but he does have the ability to click Protect. It doesn't get fully paralyzed, as the Moonblast is going to come out at +2. I do get the special attack drop, which is pretty nice, but it doesn't super matter. He gets another full paralysis, or the first full paralysis, which is pretty great, and Ditto is going to be able to click another Moonblast, but he is going to get a Protect off before that happens. And you're going to see that this Finny just is a problem. I don't have a great dedicated answer to it, as the 10% that he has left is because of all of his protecting, but he's going to be able to go for it again should he not get fully paralyzed. But I do have a Hawlucha which does outspeed and does have acrobatics, and its item has been consumed, so even though this wasn't supposed to be a sweeper, it was still an option. I thought he might protect, and I was thinking about clicking Swords Dance, but I still kill at 23%, even without being at +2, so I figured it wasn't too much of a risk to just go for the acrobatics straight up, and it does kill the Tapu Finny, and we are able to take a 2-0. That Finny got 4 kills at the end of the game, well, technically 3. Scizor died to the Mega Kangaskhan, but I was up 6-2, and he managed to bring it all the way back to a 2-0 and almost won the game, which is terrifying. Now, debatably, on that Volt Switch play with the Rotom, I could have just gone into my Koko before he had gotten any Calm Minds up, and then gone for the Thunderbolt like that. That might have been the better play. Even without the Electric Terrain up, that may have been my best play. Or potentially going for a Calm Mind of my own, taking one non-invested Moonblast. We know we could take one, and then going for a Thunderbolt from there. If he did Calm Mind himself, then I can just click Thunderbolt or Calm Mind until he attacks me, and then eventually win the game. So either way, great game to Jacob. That was a super fun game, and I learned a new way of using a Scizor, which is getting a Swords Dance Baton Pass Choice Banded Scizor is awesome and super fun. And its attack stat, for those who are wondering at home, was 1192 according to Showdown, which is wild. That's actually insane. So thank you all so much for watching. I will see you guys back here next week as we continue on our quest to see how we do in our first ever Showdown League. Thank you all so much for watching. Take care, everybody.